Matt has a hugely important job interview tomorrow. He knows he needs to prepare, research the company, rehearse his answers, but instead, he convinces himself he needs to relax a little and opens Netflix. One episode turns into 3, and by the time he realizes it, it's too late and exhaustion has won. He goes to bed with that familiar anxiety, telling himself he improvises well under pressure. The next day, he arrives late because of traffic he didn't plan for, stumbles through his answers, and walks out knowing he bombed. He doesn't blame his lack of preparation. He blames the traffic, the interviewer, a bad day. Deep down, he created the perfect excuse for his failure before he even tried, because the fear of giving his all and still not being good enough was just too terrifying. Jake has the same interview. The pressure is the same, so is the fear. But he faces the damn discomfort head on. He turns off his phone, sits his ass in the chair, and studies the company for 2 straight hours. Then he plans his route, lays out his clothes, and goes to bed early. He doesn't wait to feel confident. He builds confidence through preparation. He arrives 15 minutes early, calm, and dominates the interview. Not because he's a genius, but because he refused to be his own enemy. The difference is that Jake understands you can't control the outcome, but you can and must control your effort. If you identified with Matt, pay close attention, because your life is being ruled by a coward hidden inside you, and that coward is your own mind. This pattern of self-sabotage isn't bad luck or a lack of organization. It's an unconscious project to keep you small. You destroy your own chances because deep down, you're terrified of the responsibility that success demands. Before we continue, if you are truly committed to crushing this weak version of yourself, I want you to do one thing. Go down to the comments right now and write, "I will improve." This isn't for me. It's a contract you sign with yourself, a declaration of war. If you can't even do that, you can close the video because you've already accepted your defeat. What you call procrastination is actually a fear of being judged. Arriving late isn't a lack of time. It's a way to create an excuse in case you fail. Using language that minimizes your ideas, "it's just my opinion," isn't humility. It's a dread of having your convictions challenged. You prefer the certainty of a justified failure to the uncertainty of a victory that would demand your best. This mindset destroys your confidence, your discipline, and your results, keeping you trapped in a cycle of mediocrity that you yourself feed. You're not just avoiding discomfort, you're actively building your own cage because you feel safer inside it than flying free. Now, you're probably thinking, "Noah, I get it. I just need more discipline to stop sabotaging myself." And that's where you're wrong again, and it's why you stay stuck. Your problem isn't a lack of discipline. You know how to be disciplined with things that don't scare you. The real enemy here is your self-image. You see yourself as the guy who almost makes it, the guy who has potential, but something always happens. This victim identity has become comfortable. You've gotten used to being the poor guy who has a good excuse for not winning, because being the guy who actually wins requires a level of responsibility that terrifies you. The truth no one tells you is that self-sabotage is a protection mechanism for your ego. It's easier to deal with the frustration of a planned failure than with the pressure of having to sustain real success. If you never reach the top, you never run the risk of falling. If you never finish the project, no one can judge the final result. You're not running from the work, you're running from the judgment. You're running from the version of yourself who has no more excuses, who has to be a badass every single day. This cowardice, disguised as procrastination or bad luck, is what keeps you exactly where you are, safe, comfortable, and completely mediocre. I know exactly how this voice of sabotage works, because for years I was the master of stabbing myself in the back. In college, I had the chance to lead a project that could have landed me a dream internship. I was the most qualified, I had the best ideas, but in the week of the final presentation, I started to procrastinate. I told myself I worked better under pressure, but the truth is I was terrified. What if it wasn't good enough? What if my best version was still mediocre? So unconsciously, I started skipping meetings and leaving the work for the last minute. I was building my own defeat, just to have a ready-made excuse in case I failed. It was only when a friend looked me in the face and said, "You're afraid to win, you idiot," that it finally clicked. It was that slap in the face that forced me to create a war plan. a system to silence the inner coward's voice. I structured a 14-day guide to rip out procrastination and the cheap pleasure habits that were destroying my potential by the root. This plan is my ebook, Stop Being a Loser: How to Quit, Stop Procrastinating, and Become a Real Man in 14 Days. And no, it's not free, for the simple reason that we don't value what comes at no cost. Consider this your first real investment in yourself, proof that you're committed. And because it's the first version, the price is almost symbolic. Whoever secures access now will receive all future updates at no additional cost. It's your first step to stop just consuming content and start taking real action. Imposter syndrome is the last refuge of the hidden coward. When you, by some chance, achieve a victory, what's your first reaction? I got lucky. Anyone could have done it. You say this thinking you're being humble, but it's your fear speaking louder. By crediting your success to luck, you absolve yourself of the responsibility to repeat the feat. If it was luck, it wasn't your merit, so no one can expect you to be good again. It's an insurance policy against the pressure of success. You'd rather feel like a lucky fraud than own up to being competent, because competence demands consistency. It demands that you prove yourself repeatedly. It's the final sabotage. Even when you win, you find a way to turn the victory into an excuse not to try again with the same intensity. The cure for this inner coward isn't to get rid of fear. That's impossible. Fear will always be there. True courage is looking at your fear, recognizing the power it has to paralyze you, and yet taking the next step anyway. Courage is preparing for the interview even with the voice in your head telling you you're going to fail. It's raising your hand and giving your opinion without the "I think," even when you fear judgment. It's accepting the compliment for your success without diluting it with false modesty. It's a process, a daily battle. And to continue helping you on this journey, I've prepared another video that is already appearing on your screen.